Hello friends, I am Jyotilal. Welcome to my chess blog. In this video series, I am going to discuss the importance of center and its different forms. Center assumes a significant role in chess discourses, and its reason is obvious. It is the most important part of the chessboard till the early middle game. But what exactly is the center? The four squares d4, d5, e4, e5 comprises the proper center of a chessboard. And the squares adjoining these squares are often termed as large or expanded center. One might well ask why these central squares or central area is so important and why almost all mainstream chess openings have been designed to fight for this area. The answer is simple. Everything starts from the center and everything spreads from the center. The one who controls the center controls the whole board. If one center can secure an outpost for one of his pieces in the center, the activity of that piece will reach its zenith. The attainment of a robust pawn center is another objective in the opening phase of any game. If you get a stable pawn center, then you will be able to prevent the opponent from maneuvering his pieces freely and can even threaten the natural placement or development of his pieces. For example, an e5 advance can prevent a bishop from coming onto d6 or a knight from coming onto f6. So, control of the center gives you better space and maneuverability and can help you to deprive the same to your opponent. The most sought after pawn center is the classical or ideal pawn center. That means when you have a pawn on d4 and e4, for white it is called the classical center, and for black it is e5 and d5. Then we have little center and various other types of pawn centers. The center can also be controlled by pieces. Generally, control of the center by pieces alone is not always possible, nor is it viable, but a combination of pieces and pawns is more stable. For a pawn center to be strong, there are basically two conditions. Firstly, the pawn center has to be well protected by the pieces. Secondly, it has to be kept as a mobile unit. That is, the pawn center should maintain the threat of advance into the opponent's territory and should be able to create tactical threats in the center and on the sides. This is very important for all pawn centers generally and classical center in particular, as we have to handle two pawns in this case. And for the side playing against a pawn center, immobilization of the pawn center is the initial task, and then attack and annihilation of the center using pawns and pieces is the final part. Let us now start with the classical center and examine the successful handling of classical center. So let me play the initial moves here. Starting with the game e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bb5, a6. So we have the Spanish opening here. Knight f6. d6, c3, castle, d4, b5, bishop c2, e takes d4, knight takes d4, knight takes d4, and pawn takes d4. So now we have the position of interest. White has the ideal or classical center. The first and foremost task is to ensure proper pace support to the center so that it can remain strong and withstand any pressure from the opponent. The second and probably the more important objective is to maintain the pawn center as a mobile unit. That is, it should be able to advance and make a breakthrough into the opponent's territory and create tactical threats in the center or on the sides. The next few moves are aimed at strengthening the center. Black played bishop b7 and then knight played knight c3 here. Well, we can see both sides playing towards the center, and black played b4. Well, this move may not be that accurate because the intention probably is right to weaken the white's pawn center, but black has advanced a pawn a bit too far into the white's territory, and of course it helped to drive the knight to the side of the board. Well, but it's not going to achieve much here. Let us continue here. Rook e8 and f3. Well, it's very clear white is protecting the center and black playing here g6, a move of doubtful value, as this does not put any pressure on the white center. Bishop e3, white continues to augment the center. a5. Rook c1, white is organizing the pieces quite well here. Knight d7. Well, the knight has been taken back with the intention of playing f5 to break or to attack the white center. And white takes immediate measure to prevent this. Black plays c6. Well, now if you can look at the center, you can understand that the black's position has got a few weaknesses. His pawn on c6 and d6 are really weak, and of course there is another weak square on b6. So as I mentioned earlier in the introduction, one of the main objectives with the classical center is to create tactical threats using the mobility of the center, which is beautifully demonstrated here. And also we can understand that black has got some few weaknesses in the position, so it is very much important to make a breakthrough so that white can penetrate into these weak squares. So white's next move is understandable, e5. A fantastic pawn sacrifice to penetrate into the numerous black's weaknesses. Black takes and knight into e5 finally. Another important point to remember is that when the opponent has got structural weaknesses, it is always better to penetrate into his position to exploit the weaknesses. As you can see here, it is not only the weak squares but the lack of coordination among the black pieces that makes the white's task easier. Bishop b6, queen d6, queen takes d6, bishop takes d6, rook c d1. Well, bishop going to a6, rook takes d6, knight f3. Well, black has made a small combination here, but it's not going to make much of an impact here as white is already clearly superior. Rook e2, king g3. Well, rook d7 is a strong threat. White has a strong compensation. bb5 protecting the c6 pawn. Rook d7. And now black played c5. With bishop f7, the position is almost clearly superior to the white. So after king g7, he played rook c7, king f6, knight into c5, rook e7, rook takes e7, king takes e7, bishop d5, rook c8, bishop b7, rook e8, and now it's very simple for white. He makes a mobbing up operation here, and after b3, a into b3, black resigned. So we have seen a very clear demonstration of the strength of the classical center. It became very clear that in this position, white was able to make a strong breakthrough, exploiting all the weak squares in the black's position, and this demonstrates the strength of the classical center. So we have seen the first example where classical center became very powerful, and in the next example I will show you another game where how to play against a classical center will be demonstrated. So please stay tuned for the next video. Till then, bye.